If you've ever heard of monarch programming and MK Ultra, then you know these are types of programs that are running in the game of life. And when we enter the game of life, it's very likely that we are part of those programs automatically because we're part of systems, because we're part of families that are playing the same programs. So by default, we are embedded in those programs as well. So when we talk about secret societies and secret clubs like the Freemasons and the Illuminati, these are controlling this type of program on Earth with some sort of guidance that is coming from above because they are also tapped into source, but they're tapped to a different type of source, I would say, because what we refer to as source, what we call source, this is the divine source where all information is stored, and source is always trying to lead us, those that are connected, those that are on the awakening, on the ascension journey, to restore the abundant playground, the abundant matrix on Earth. So we're talking about unity, we're talking about unconditional love, we're talking about peace. So we have ruling forces right now on Earth that are trying to preserve the game as it is in division, in a state of war, in a state of conflict, in a state of envy, in a state of fight for power, for survival. Because as long as these structures exist, they can exert control over other people, over other beings, and beneath these avatars that we're wearing, there are different types of consciousness. And those that are currently in power are not very powerful. They have just learned how to play the game in order for them to exert their power onto the mass population on Earth right now. But there are some very powerful beings on Earth that come from very high dimensions, from they're high vibrational beings that are on Earth that, first of all, they probably don't know that they are. We're talking about indigo children, rainbow children, crystal children. A lot of videos and books and movies have been created to make them a little bit more easier to understand because they do have a different type of programming, different type of wiring. They find it very difficult to obey the rules and comply with the rules because the rules just don't make sense to them. Their consciousness is a type of consciousness that has existed in other planes of existence where there's freedom for them to be all that they are. And they usually have a lot of talents and a lot of gifts and a lot of understanding that does not match the current requirements on Earth for you to fit in. Because in order for you to fit in the current societal structures, you need to be normal. You need to adhere to what is considered normal. You need to play by the rules that the game is creating for you, that these influencers are creating for you, that the companies that hire the influencers to persuade you that this is the norm, that this is what you should do, want you to adhere to. And so you would often see that the most famous influencers, the most famous actors, the most famous singers, they tend to be part of those secret societies. They tend to be part of those clubs that are effectively controlling what goes onto mass media, therefore, what goes into the mass programming, because they have selected people that are easier to program, easier to instruct. You know, there's a difference between an artist who they're just happy to create whatever they can create in order for them to have that opportunity to travel the world and send their song, send their message. They don't care that much about the impact. They don't care that much about creating positive change on tour. They don't care much about the lyrics and so on and so on and so on. They care about fulfilling their biggest desire to be famous, to have that reach, to have fans, to have that supportive environment. So it's very much ego driven success. And they're very easy to be persuaded into following the corrupted matrix. They're very easy to persuade into signing the contract that take away some of their personal freedom, some of their free will, because there are certain instructions that they need to follow. There are certain aspects of the contract that they cannot go against. So think of it as an NDA that you sign and you cannot speak about it going forward. And if you think about the existence of Earth, of other planets, of other, the whole universe. If you think about the universe and what is possible and the kind of progress and innovation that would be possible if we all embraced our authenticity, if we all embraced our gifts and talents, the kind of innovation that we would all be capable of, and the kind of positive change that we would be able to create. So we have these beings that have created these societies onto Earth that are controlling the mass media, that are controlling the everyday person through them. And they are essentially limiting your imagination to believe into this is possible, this is the only way I can do this is the only way I can achieve this. And so the programming of the human psyche starts when you're very young, because you start to notice that you can dream, but not too much, because probably you won't be able to achieve it based on what's currently available and how you would need to do it. And yes, one way to get the attention of these beings is to expose more of your skin, so to speak, where they see that you're willing to do anything to get those contracts. You're willing to do anything to be famous, to be put on the world stage. And of course, that sets a different precedent in the minds of the young souls, or in the souls of the young minds, that they are now starting to believe that, or even starting to get prepared for that kind of reality, because the ideas start coming to them, ideas for songs, ideas for movies, ideas for books, and they're thinking, well, how can I get this idea out there? And the easiest way would be to compromise your morals. That's just one type of example, of course, but the impact that MK Ultra and moral programming has on our psyche, on the collective spiritual experience, on the individual spiritual experience, is not to be ignored, because it has impacted us hugely in the last few decades. The period following the Second World War until today, that has created a huge division within us, from us to the actual source, from us to actual God. And I'm not referring to a specific God, I'm referring to the creator of all of existence, all of it. And you might find some truth about God in the Bible, you might find some truth about God in Buddhism, in Muslim texts, in preaching. The truth of the matter is the creator operates with love, with unconditional love, with acceptance, with lack of judgment. And Jesus Christ as a figure was mirrored in the image of the creator, because he was capable of performing miracles and he was leading with that no judgmental preaching. And we do have a lot of people on earth right now that are operating in the same way, that are mirrors of the same creator. And they don't tend to be put on the world stage, because if they were, you would suddenly realize that everything starts with you. And when you change yourself for the better, your whole world changes for the better. So, one thing that happens with those people, and some of them might be referred to as the chosen ones, some of them might be referred to as light workers, some of them might be referred to as positive change makers, as disruptors. There are different missions that they have, and not all of them have to be on a huge spiritual calling. But if they have chosen to be positive change makers in this dark world, because most of the world is dark, make no mistake, even the world portrayed on the news isn't just propaganda, it still is a reflection of the type of psyche, personality that we have adopted as our own, the type of identity that feels familiar, fear-based, and operating with a lot of anxiety and worries and concerns. That is the norm for a lot of people. Happiness and joy and faith and hope and excitement and play, that isn't the norm for most people. And it has been the norm for me personally, because that is who I want to be. I've always aspired to be the most positive person that I know. So when I'm going through a period of my life when I'm a little bit more depressed, I know that it's not me, that I'm acting out of character, because I'm dealing with something, I'm processing something, I'm maybe picking up on other people's energies or projections. But how many people do you know that would actually set the target to be the most positive person that they know? Not many, because it's so much easier to complain. It's so much easier to get together and talk shit about life and other people, and just talk about your failed dreams, instead of realizing that every failure is taking you closer to success. So these people, the positive change makers, the ones that see through these false structures, the ones that don't want to sell their souls, they don't want to compromise their morals, they understand that it's all a lie, it's all a facade, it's, oh, for lack of a better word, bullshit. You signing these contracts to be famous for 5, 10 years means nothing. In the grand scheme of things, it means absolutely nothing. Because in those 5 to 10 years, you would reach a group of teenagers, a group of adults, but that's it. The world doesn't change for the better, especially if your songs, if your movies, if your books are contributing to keeping that consciousness corrupted. It means nothing. You being famous for 5 years means nothing because at the end of your life, you're going to look back at your career if you don't change. And you're going to say, I was successful, but I lack meaning. And that is the kind of thinking that a lot of young people don't have role models to help them with. How can we live with more meanings? It's not about aspiring to have all the riches, to have the biggest house, to have the latest technology, to have. It's not about having, it's about being. And when you are a person who is of love, of light, of joy, of positivity, of faith, when you have that abundance in your spirit, everything that you do gets infused with your spirit, and you will find joy in the most trivial things. But also, you would understand that the initial goals that you had on your vision board probably were a reflection of the society that we live in collectively. They weren't really what you wanted to do, what you were meant to do. And I've seen that with my own goal setting. I've always had on my vision board publish a book, and that book is there. It's always been there. It's been in the making for 10 years. And I keep coming back to it and rewriting it and stopping because the next time I come back to it, more of it is downloaded. But I understand now that if I published that book 10 years ago, I would have achieved a human dream, but I would have missed the mark on my soul-led calling, on my higher calling, because my higher calling is so much bigger than I could have ever pictured. And even I don't know how big all of it is because I'm downloading and grounding pieces of it and puzzle pieces, and it blows me away how much more I am capable of and we are all capable of. So don't be limited by what is available in the physical world, what is available in front of you. Don't be limited by the role models that the society that we live in is trying to sell you onto, because they're trying to embed certain celebrities everywhere, and it gets boring after a while. It gets boring. We're not meant to get obsessed with one person or 100 people. We're meant to get to know people. We're meant to schedule meetings with people, get to know them, exchange ideas, inspiration, meet someone new next week, and see what you can do with them. See how you can co-create with them. See how you can create some exposure around your ideas. It's not about getting obsessed with the latest pop stars. It really isn't. It's a waste of time. It really is a waste of time, especially if they are not awakened to the point where they're realizing that what they're creating is part of a darker agenda, and that agenda is so much bigger than just this goal. But what I wanted to talk about was the positive change makers, the light workers, the kind souls, the kind spirits that are here on a mission. And if you are a chosen one, if you are an earth angel, if you are a star seed, if you are an ancient soul, you would always be redirected at the right time where you need to go. Doesn't matter what you do, doesn't matter who surrounds you, you would always be redirected exactly when you're supposed to be redirected, because you have a mission, you have a calling that is much greater than most people. And because source, universe, God, the creator, knows that you won't be tempted, that you won't be corrupted. They know that they can trust you with all that is coming to you. And yes, there might be some people that, betray the calling. That's what we call the fallen angels. One type of example. Some people might just fail the assignment. Some people might fail so hugely that they have to, start from scratch. They might succeed in something and then realize that they were led to the wrong path. Because yes, sometimes we would get tested as well. I went through a test like that when I lost my connection to source, and it was a huge lesson. It was a huge lesson not to be around people that I knew that I wasn't supposed to be around, but I kept giving the benefit of the doubt to them, not to myself, to them. And so that was a huge lesson. And that happened long before I knew even what the healing journey is, the inner healing journey, the self-healing journey. That was a very limited understanding of the spiritual awakening and very limited understanding of who I am. But we all go through it. We all go through this learning process. And I completely lost my entire relationship with source, in the sense that I couldn't receive ideas anymore. Nothing was coming. And I knew that part of me was blocked, destroyed, stolen in the name of somebody else trying to achieve my purpose on earth, which is insane. So, destiny swapping, I've done a video on it. It very much is real. When people understand that your life has been anointed, appointed, and you're here on a mission, they will try to swap energies with you, destinies with you. And that happened to me because I lost everything in terms of my identification. And I had to find my way back on my own. And let's say a relationship took me 5 years for me to truly bury myself. And I had to unbury myself for the next 5 years. And I did that all on my own. And many people have betrayed me over the years. And I think whoever decided to swap destinies with me wasn't that far away. It was somebody within my inner circle. But that's the thing that happens when you fully step into your calling. Everyone gets removed. So whoever it was, you had to go at it. But now it's time for the rightful owners of the assignments to complete the assignment. Because if you're not appointed for a calling, it means that you haven't earned the status to achieve it. You haven't understood the meaning of life to the point where it needs to be understood. You haven't raised your consciousness to the level it needs to be raised. And that usually happens when you go through a lifetime of learning. You can't cheat your way to changing the world either. And some people think they're changing the world because they have been chosen by the dark agenda, because the dark agenda already knows your spiritual level. And if you are at the lower level and you're given an opportunity to change the world, but you do not know what to do with that opportunity, they know that they have picked the right person to not change the world. The dark agenda and people that follow the dark source, they're very smart. You have to understand how to play the game in order for you to outsmart them. And you don't outsmart them by screaming louder and pointing fingers. You outsmart them by doing the inner work and by tapping other people on the shoulder and gently getting to know them, so that you show them that there's more to life, there's more to them if they want to do the work. You cannot do the work for anyone, and you cannot truly force people to see the truth if they're not ready to see it, if it's not time for them to see it. But I keep trying to come back to the point, and the point is handlers. If you're here to create positive change, and if you have a huge assignment, a huge calling, you will have handlers, and handlers are monitoring spirits. Handlers come into your life to monitor your progress, to monitor your ideas, to monitor the kind of downloads that you're receiving. And the way that it works is you usually start getting handlers long before you know who you are, long before you understand there's something called source, that you're going to start receiving downloaded. You're going to start downloading messages. You're going to have channeled messages. You have a calling. You have a soul tribe. Your handlers know who you are long before you do, because the dark system, the dark source, understands who you are when you enter the game. The Natal Birth Chart that I've started tracking and helping other people understand their calling with is something that the dark agenda, the dark source, has been very great at using, because they're using the knowledge that is available to you against you. And that is how they're able to spot the people with destinies, especially if you go to ancestry.com and you start to figure out who bought it. The dark agenda, the dark source, which is the man-made source, essentially, somebody who's hijacking access to the actual source, who's here to create an advanced humanity. They're tapping into knowledge that they should not be tapping into, to figure out who is gifted on earth, who has missions on earth, who brings what, and how that can be used. And they'll do their best to stop the people that are the most advanced, the most talented, so that they never remember who they are. Because the moment you remember who you are, that's it. It's checkmate. It's endgame. It's done. Whatever attempts they had, it's done. Because when you know who you are, nothing can take you away from that knowledge, and nothing can stop you from fulfilling your purpose, because you would start working with actual source. You would start working with actual God, the creator, the most high. Whether you're a believer or not watching this video, that is exactly what happens. That is my testimony. That is my experience. And I know that it's the experience of many other people. And some people watching this might be people who have had their destiny swapped. their karma being misplaced with somebody else's. So they're experiencing the lack of luck and negativity while somebody else is benefiting and getting the marriage and getting the promotions and getting the travel while they're doing absolutely nothing and progressing with nothing in their own life, personal, professional. Why? Because they've swapped destinies with you on some level. They swapped karma with you on some level. Because these are the type of trickster energies and monitoring spirits and handlers. That's what they do. They come into your life, they steal from you energetically, and you see them benefit from your blessings, from your anointing, because that's how they play the game. And some of this, maybe most of it, is happening on a spiritual level. So do not underestimate people. Do not underestimate energies around you. And if somebody is giving you a false energy, if somebody feels fake and false, trust that feeling. I'll give you one example of a handler or a type of handler or a type of monitoring spirit that I had in my life that always gave me some weird feeling that I could not pinpoint. And one of the signs, one of the telltales was this person couldn't even hug me properly. It was like, how can you call yourself somebody's best friend and you cannot even hug them? Like, that is just forced, it's false, it's fake, it's bullshit. And that is one type. And your mind is very smart as well. So your mind is going to come up with all kinds of answers why people are acting the way they're acting, because you want to give them the benefit of the doubt. At some point, you have to learn that giving the benefit of the doubt to people for years means that you've already spotted a red flag, you've already spotted a toxic behavior, and you're making excuses for it because you are lacking self-compassion for yourself, because you have been removed from your own inner intuition, and it's time for you to return to yourself. Handlers come in many forms and many shapes, and you can think of them as monitoring spirits. They cannot harm you, but they will 100% delay you, and they will mess up with everything that you do. They are there to cause chaos, to sabotage you. They will attempt to steal anything and everything that matters to you. Do not underestimate handlers. Do not underestimate even a single conversation with these types of people, because they're there to extract information. They're there to extract your weaknesses and report back to that dark source. Again, it could all be done spiritually speaking. It doesn't have to be physical. They're probably not going to some club, secret club, and they're saying, oh, they said this, and that. It's already memorized here and it's being sent back to the source, to the master. When you are here with huge dreams and people do not understand those dreams, you are here on a mission, which means you will be targeted, you will be monitored, you will not receive recognition, you will be made to believe that you are doing nothing, that what you're doing is not important. You will not be given the same recognition, support like average people are getting. No offense to average people, but the system, that's how it operates. It makes you want to abandon your calling by all means necessary. False friends, a network packed with monitoring agent smiths, placing in front of you everything that you deserve, 100%, everything that you're worthy of, showing you somebody else getting it, and making you ask yourself, what am I doing wrong? You're not doing anything wrong. This is the system trying to get to you because you're so close to the finish line. That's the only way that the system can get to you. And one of the scenes that comes to mind is the Harry Potter and destroying the Horcrux of the necklace, the locket, where Ron had to use the Gryffindor sword to pierce it, to destroy it. Just before that moment, that darkness that unfolded, it showed Ron all of his fears, all of his deepest wounds and fears, and that is exactly what the system does to you. It's probably the last obstacle before you can return fully to source and align with your soul tribe, with your purpose fully, because you're destroying these horcruxes that have been tied to your life. Essentially, you're destroying the black magic that has been thrown at you since the day you were born to stop you. And one by one, you're inevitably going through these painful memories, through these painful experiences. You're healing from them, and that darkness needs to return back to its sender. So it's going to feel uncomfortable, but it's not darkness that you're creating, and it's not darkness that is meant to stay there either. It needs to go back to the source, whether it's the dark source or whether it's to the person that sent it to you. So when you remove yourself from your handlers as well, when you close these boundaries, when you say enough is enough, I'm done sharing my plans with people that are not supporting me, or people that are not benefiting me, or people that just seem to be there for no reason, When that happens, you will close all the energetic links to the system's way of sending you these handlers, monitoring spirits, trickster spirits. And at some point, the energy that they sent or the energy that was sent through them is going to go back to them. When that happens, you need to sit back and focus on your life because you did nothing wrong. You've been targeted your whole life, and you have to let people suffer the consequences for stealing from you and not receiving your sympathy or empathy, because that sympathy and empathy, the access to that sympathy and empathy was destroyed the moment they decided to use their free will to get to you and go against you. If you've always been here with ideas to change the world for the better, to bring positive change, to advance yourself, to love people, support people, and empower people, you have done nothing wrong. The system has used its best agents, smiths, its best handlers, and unfortunately, at some point, it doesn't matter how much you get attached to people. If they go against you and if they go against a mission that is much higher than you, because we're talking about starting businesses and changing industries that are going to impact generations to come. This is personal, but it's not your fight. This is the fight of the divine. And when somebody messes with one of the appointed figures of the divine on earth, there are consequences. Justice is served, but justice is served through the divine. We're talking about a justice system that is so much more advanced than you can imagine, because everything that you do and every intention that you apply in conversations and in friendships and in connections and in choices, all of that is being tracked above. You can believe it, you cannot believe it, doesn't matter. You're going to see some people experience some real losses when you remove yourself from their lives. And you're going to recognize you were the source. You were the source of ideas, of energy, of abundance that they were stealing from. And you're going to ask yourself, boy, what did I get from these experiences? Life lessons, I suppose. Not much else. Most of these handlers, they don't know how to support you. They know how to listen because they're extracting information, but most of the time they really need somebody to listen to them because they want to be as important to you, because on some level they recognize that you are the star. And even if they try to make themselves the star of the show, you are the star. So thank you for watching. This is a bit of a spiritual rant. I will be recording some more videos around destiny swapping. I know there's a lot of interest around that, and a lot of people are recognizing the signs, karma, monarch programming, MK Ultra, and um, I suppose demons was something that people were interested in, kind of how to navigate with them, and usually they're tied to narcissism as well. So thank you for growing. Thank you for healing. As usual, if you are here on a divine assignment, you are being guided, you are being protected. So don't get stuck in your mind. Keep healing your heart and keep operating with love and keep focusing on your goals. That is the key. That's what you're here to do. You're here to accomplish a mission. So good luck.